Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for the Miniforce Rex Kaiser D6 combination. Here's how he scales with other Miniforce robots and a transformer. And this is like a custom that I'm working on, so the legs are a lot longer. I'm going to make the arms longer, but you can see he's gigantic now. And I do happen to have two of these guys at the moment, so this is how he looks with the D2 Rex Kaiser. So you can see it's pretty transformative. He looks a lot different. It's definitely much bulkier. And then, just real fast, I did get this guy from G Market too, and then this one also had an issue. If you watched my first video about Rex Kaiser, this one didn't come with a sword in the packaging, so I've had really bad luck buying this figure. It's been a real pain. All right, let's look at the boxes of all these guys. So I don't really know their names. I'm pretty sure it's Magma, Kylo, and Freezing, Frozen. Oh, it says it. It literally says it. Frozen Tiger. And then you can see as the combination form on the back, on the sides. And then you get a nice product shot on the back. And then Thunder T-Rex, Burning Sarah. And then these robot shots are CGI, so we're the ones on the side, which look really gorgeous. But they sort of represent the toy. They're a little bit exaggerated, but they're pretty close to what you actually get. And these do come with nice instructions that have like the CGI image on the front, regular directions, which are many pages, because these guys are actually more complicated than you might think. And then the final combination there, the D9. All right, and then there's a 360 view of this guy. I think it's pretty cool how you can see all of his coins when his back is turned. And I think he just looks so much different than the original form. I think this does count as a really good, interesting Power Rangers kind of combination. But I like how you can see all the coins. So all the limbs have pretty good articulation. You do get some outward motion. Just a little bit. It's definitely lacking. You get basically 2 clicks. You get the neutral, 1, 2, 3. So 3 clicks of outward motion. So not great. You do have this waist swivel, which acts as the elbow, and then you do have the hips, which give the elbow joint. So the articulation is there. It's not terrible. And then of course you do have the swivel, but the shoulder pads are likely to bash into things. I think this will be better when you have the Terra, which gives him more shoulder width. So I'm looking forward to that combination. I do really like the blue Tyranno arm. I think the claw actually is probably the better upper body or arm combination. I think this arm is pretty lackluster. It looks kind of dumb. It looks like a weapon for sure, but like a spearing weapon, I guess, but it's just kind of basic compared to this one. I think performs the overall combination look much better, and I think it fits the character of the robot. And then the feet, I think, look pretty excellent. It's very Power Rangers-esque where you see the giant heads for the feet. I wish the arms would have did that too. I guess the Sarah kind of does that, but you don't see the T-Rex head at all. And then you do get, because it's built onto the original ankles, you do get your your ratcheted ankle tilts, which is pretty nice. So that helps with posing. But this guy he's not going to be much fun posing. I'll get his sword out of the way because it's kind of annoying. So you can get some interesting looking poses out of this guy, but he's pretty cumbersome because there's just so much going on now. So you can get some good action poses. It's not impossible. And then his waist is kind of locked out because his arms are tabbed in, but you can just untab the arms if you want to give him his waist back, but it's probably best to just leave it tabbed in to give him some stability. And then because these feet have such gigantic heels, he does have pretty good stability. so you don't have to worry about him falling backwards. These feet are, as you can see, they're just enormous feet, but they help. They help with the posing a lot. So not bad, actually, considering how giant this guy is. Pretty good posing. He is extraordinarily heavy now, so you can lighten up his weight by just taking off all the coins, because these coins do have die cast on the outside, and their weight actually does add up. And again, really good work on the design team for making this guy have such huge heels, because you can really just put him down and he'll be fine. Even if you don't get his ankles exactly right, he is pretty nicely stable. We'll see how that holds up when the other robots take his place. But anyway, when we get the Terra on his back. So this is right now is at 0 ounces, and if I put all the coins on, so that adds about 4 ounces, which is like more than one of these figures weighs, I think. But like each coin is about 0.8 ounces. So that's a good amount of weight to just not have on him. So I like to set those aside. And before I transform these up, yes, you can swap the arms with Justice Titan. It makes Justice Titan look kind of stupid because it's not to scale at all. But Rex Kaiser does look cool with the gigantic arms. They actually do fit him. But there's really no reason to do this, honestly. And if you don't know, the arms do just slide off on these rail systems. So you just lift them up. And they are also ratcheted into place, so they can be a little sticky. That came off pretty easily. And then the feet are just put in place with the clips on the heel and the clips on the toes. You just turn the feet backwards, so the heel is here, the toe is here. And you just, well, for Kylo, you have to take off this mace weapon. And then you're just going to yank it off, which can be a little bit hard, surprisingly, considering these are just on clips. And those just correspond to these clips here and here. And here they are in their vehicle or their head modes. So you can see this actually looks kind of cool, even though it's kind of dumb, but they're just basically giant heads on treads. So they're just tanks, I guess. And then they have a spot in the back to load up their coins as well. But they are very silly. There's like really no good reason to put them into this mode. It's just something they can do. They can just basically fold in half and turn into heads. And then compared to like the last set of heads, these ones are obviously much better, but these don't turn into limbs. So I guess they get a pass. And then here's this guy from, I don't know, Miniforce Dino Power, Dino Storm, who knows. But the Kara tank, which I think is still an excellent figure. You can see it kind of resembles these new things, but obviously this is an actual tank with a turret. It looks much cooler than one of these. And here's a shot of these robots so you can get an idea of how big they are. They are all pretty much exactly Voyager sized. And you can see compared to Rex Kaiser, they are all very puny. Their articulation is all pretty similar. They all have these ball joint shoulders, and they do have like transformation joints, so you can get a good amount of upward motion. And then the ball joints, of course, give you 360. Some of the ball joints are better than others. Some of them just pop out while you're transforming them, which is kind of annoying. Most of them have ball joint elbows. This one has ratcheted elbows and a bicep swivel. And then they have, some of them have waist articulation, some of them don't. This one has a nice clicky waist articulation. He's got a ball joint neck, and he's got these universal hips, which pretty much all of them have, which gives you full forward, backwards, outward, and then you get mushroom peg, and then you get an exposed mushroom peg. So definitely some cost cutting happening with these figures, which is pretty annoying. But yeah, they all pretty much share that same articulation. So I like, this one's probably one of my favorites. I just really love these translucent green swords. They're very like frosted color. They are very thin. Like you could, if if you wanted to, you could break it probably with one hand if you weren't careful. So, and then it probably doesn't help that it has giant holes in the middle, but they are very cool looking. I like that color a lot. And you can get some really good articulation out of these guys. So you can get some solid action poses. And he does have like this shoulder shield, which does not peg onto his arm at all. So it's kind of worthless since you can't actually have him hold this shield, unfortunately, which would be a cool look. Like you can get the swords on his hip for storage, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I really would have liked if he could actually hold his shield with one hand so you can get standard sword and shield going, but there's no peg for him to hold, just a hole, and these posts on the side don't do anything useful. You can also just put on his back just to forget about it. But yeah, I think this is one of the better looking ones, and of course his head sculpt, as you can see, is pretty excellent. Very different than your normal Miniforce since they do have faces. But that's Frozen Tiger, so we'll move on to my other favorite, which is Magma Kylo, and you can see he's got a really interesting head sculpt as well, which has some of that dino look to it. Now, I do really like that he can hold his shield and his club, which is pretty awesome. So he looks very intimidating. And then I like the little bits of translucent orange all over his body. So he just looks so different than the other ones. I really enjoy his look. And he's got translucent orange here. And you can see he does have like hinged elbows instead. So that there's a little bit of variance, but this guy's pretty well made. So yeah, that's about it for this guy. And then he is one of the ones who does not have waist articulation due to transformation. And then what is this? Flame Sarah? Burning Sarah? This one's pretty cool. I like his pylon weapons. They look very intimidating. And then his overall look is pretty great too. And his head sculpt, also pretty good. I like this little horn crest on his head is pretty cool. And then his little horns coming up over his shoulders, also a pretty good look. He does have like this weird thing on his shins where he's got like these fists. I mean, they're clearly fingers, so I don't know what that's about. There's no mode where he uses his legs as hands, but his legs are clearly hands. You can't even really fit his weapons in there, but they're definitely fist holes, so I really don't understand, and it doesn't really play out in the combined mode either, so I have no idea what the point of that is. I don't know if there's like a show reason where he uses his legs as fists at some point. I don't know, but he does have waist articulation. And then overall, I think the color on this guy really pops. He just comes across really well, and his weapons are very excellent, and he doesn't have too much kibble going on in the back, which is just the crest of his dino mode. And then finally, I think my least favorite is just the T-Rex. He does have these ball joint elbows, which is not great. They can pop off. He does have ball joint shoulders too, which could also pop off if you're not careful. He does have waist articulation though, which is nice. And I don't know, there's just not much to say about this one. This one is just the generic cop of the group, I guess, and he's got this giant kibble on the back, which is useful in his other modes, but doesn't do anything in this mode, which is annoying. But he looks okay. I don't know, the other ones I think just have much more presence, like with this guy's broad chest. So yeah, I bought this whole set, including Rex Kaiser. They were about $230 after shipping on Gmarket, which is a pretty good deal for this whole set, because these individual figures, if you're lucky, you might be able to get one for $50, which is a lot for a Voyager sized figure. And the quality on these definitely do take a hit. You get hollow plastic, you get mushroom pegs, so it does all the Transformer stuff. And the plastic on these guys though, I think is better. It's brittle plastic instead of like that flexi plastic that Transformers use. But the quality of these guys in hand does not feel great. This is definitely a step down from your usual Miniforce quality. These guys are probably like a 7 in quality. They're starting to feel like you could break them, which is not a good feeling. Um, yeah, I would say definitely don't pay more than $50 for these. That's too much for how tiny they are and what you get. But I guess you kind of need them to complete the set. So what are you gonna do? Um, yeah, I would say $40 is probably a good price to pay for these. 30 would be ideal, and that's about what it works out to if you buy the whole set like I did. But yeah, that's about it. So I'll leave the link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.